Welcome to the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners Land Use Meeting and Public Hearing for Tuesday, August 10th, 2021. It is 2:37 in the afternoon. We just said the Pledge of Allegiance together, so we're going to move on to the attorney certification for today's agenda. Mr. Ingalls?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are two items on your agenda. Item 3A, required posted notice and published notice that was accomplished on July 9th, 2021 and July 8th, 2021, respectively. Item 3B, required published notice and posted notice, which was accomplished on July 8th, 2021 and July 9th, 2021, respectively. With that, you have proper notice and jurisdiction on both items on your agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Ingalls. Do any commissioners have any items to disclose?
I have none.
And I have none either. There are no items on today's land use agenda. We'll move to the public hearing agenda. Item A, Sterling Ranch Plan Development. Brett Thomas for staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We have an updated letter from the applicant that is being handed out. The original request for today was a continuance of this item until August 24th board meeting. However, due to a scheduling conflict, the applicant's now requesting a continuance of this item until Monday, September 14th at 2:30 p.m.
Is that Monday or Tuesday?
Sorry, Tuesday.
Thank you. Just making sure I was here on the right time.
Nope.
That's right. Thank you. Any comments for staff?
I have none.
No, ma'am.
Is there a motion?
I will make a motion to continue Sterling Ranch Plan Development Amendment to Water Appeal Project File MI 2021-004 to September 14th, 2021 at 2:30 p.m. And did I miss public comment on that, or is that?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Is there any public comment on this item?
I have no public comment online.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Susan Beckman, S-U-S-B-E-C-K-M-A-N, and I'm the Entitlement Director of Sterling Ranch Development, 8155 Pinery River Avenue. I do want to thank you for your consideration of this request. As you know, the water appeal has a lot of players, the CAB, Dominion, Sterling Ranch, and our representative, and we tried to mitigate this, but the scheduling conflicts were it wasn't going to happen. So thank you for allowing us to move it to September 14th, and we'll be here, and I appreciate your consideration and staff's patience in helping us figure out what dates we could come in front of the Board of County Commissioners. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens who would like to come before the board? Troy, is there anyone online?
I have no online comments.
Thank you. I will close citizen comment. Would you like to repeat your motion, Commissioner Layden?
I will. I will make a motion to continue Sterling Ranch Plan Development Amendment to Water Appeal Project File MI 2021-004 to September 14th, 2021 at 2:30 p.m.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 3B, Canyon South Preliminary Plan Number 1A, first revision. Eric Pavlinek for staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Eric Pavlinek, representing Planning Services. The item before you is Canyon South Preliminary Plan Number 1A, first revision. The project number is SB 2021-005. The property is owned by HG Canyon South Development and HG Canyon's South Land. Alan Cunningham of PCS Group is here as the applicant representative. The request is for approval of a preliminary plan revision for 326 single-family detached residential lots, 1 superblock lot, 13 tracks, and associated public roads on approximately 825 acres in the Canyon South Plan Development. The preliminary plan includes 13 tracks, accounting for approximately 396 acres, which are intended for open space and related purposes. The intent of the preliminary plan process is to provide an in-depth analysis of the proposed subdivision, including a review of the design, considering the ability to obtain water and sanitation, identify geologic hazards, environmentally sensitive areas, wildlife habitat areas, source of required services, vehicular and pedestrian circulations, storm drainage and water quality, relationship to surrounding land uses, and conformance with the master plan. The preliminary plan process begins with the submittal of an application. Following comments by staff, the request is forwarded to referral agencies. At the beginning of the referral period, courtesy notifications of an application process are sent out to abutting landowners. One adjacent property owner commented on the application with questions on the signalization at the intersection of McCanta Boulevard and Crowfoot Valley Road. Planning and engineering staff responded to these questions, and this correspondence was included in the staff report packet. Public notice is provided, and the request is heard by the Planning Commission prior to consideration by the Board of County Commissioners. The Planning Commission considered the applicant's request for approval at a public hearing on July 26th. No members of the public spoke in response to the application. The commissioners asked clarifying questions regarding open space and consistency with the CMP. The Planning Commission expressed support for the project's subdivision design. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the application subject to the 5 conditions proposed by staff by vote of 8-0. The site, outlined in red, is located northeast of the town of Castle Rock, along the southeast side of Crowfoot Valley Road, south of Perdera Parkway, and north of Founders Parkway. Portions of the town of Castle Rock surround the property. This is an aerial view of the property. As background, the Canyons PD was approved in 2000. This original PD was amended in 2004, creating the current Canyon South PD. Sketch and preliminary plans were approved by the board in 2006. The final plat for filing 1A was approved in 2007, which included 425 residential lots and 87 tracts on approximately 901 acres. Various plat amendments were approved between 2019 and 2020. This slide shows the overall layout of the Canyon South PD. Existing platted lots and tracts are shown in green and blue. The preliminary plan revision boundary is north of these areas. This slide shows a current preliminary plan request that will amend portions of platted lots, tracts, and roads within the northern portion of filing 1A, in addition to establishing 244 new lots. The Metro District will own and maintain the 13 tracts for open space, trails, drainage, landscape, utilities, and parks. Roads will be public and accepted by the county with the subsequent final plat. Following our site photos, this view is looking west from Crowfoot Valley Road. This photo is also taken from Crowfoot Valley Road, but looking southeast. A view from Fairvid Street looking southeast. New home construction is currently ongoing in filing 1A. This photo is also taken from Fairvid Street looking east. The approval standards for a preliminary plan request are set forth in section 403 of the county's subdivision resolution and are listed on the slide. Staff's assessment of the approval standards are discussed in detail in the staff report. Staff has evaluated the preliminary plan application in accordance with Article 4. Should the board find that the approval standards for the preliminary plan are met, staff proposes the following conditions for inclusion in the motion. Condition number 1, prior to plat recordation, the unpaved fire access and non-motorized use trail within Tract M of this preliminary plan revision and Tract R of Canyon South filing 1A third amendment shall be finalized with Castle Rock Fire and the town of Castle Rock. Condition number 2, during construction activity within the development, The applicant, its successors, and assigns shall take all reasonable care to watch for historic resources, paleontological resources, and other cultural history resources, and shall immediately notify Douglas County and complete appropriate Colorado Office of Archaeological and Historic Preservation Data Management forms in the event of such discovery. Condition number 3, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and assigns shall conduct a burrowing owl study if any earth moving will take place between March 15th and October 31st. Condition number 4, Colorado Parks and Wildlife literature shall be made available to both prospective homeowners and home buyers regarding the existence of wildlife in the area and how to minimize conflicts. Condition number 5, technical corrections to the record copy of the preliminary plan exhibit shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. And condition number 6, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public hearing and are agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is a condition upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. Section 405.08 of the subdivision resolution sets forth the parameters for the board's determination on a preliminary plan request, as noted on the slide. This concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions at this time. Otherwise, Alan Cunningham is here with a presentation.
Questions for staff?
I have a few questions, but I'll reserve those for the applicant's presentation.
Thank you, Chair. So Eric, just want to make sure, we had a number of plat revisions. Obviously, this South Canyons is under a plan development or a PD document. The preliminary plan that we have before us today, based upon the review of staff, we're in accordance with the PD, we're in accordance with the plating revisions that have been done. And so we're not seeing anything deviating from any of that prior work done.
Eric Pavick for staff, no, it is in accordance with the PD. Essentially, they're adding 244 lots that weren't part of the original preliminary plan. Property there's been previous filings that they've platted property, but it is in accordance with the PD.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Those are my questions, Chair.
Thank you. I have one question. And if you could go back to the map that you had, the slide that shows this area that we are discussing. So we can talk about this one. I recently got a letter from the town of Castle Rock about a potential annexation, I believe is in this parcel. So how does this relate to that annexation letter you got? Are you able to talk to me about that?
Yeah, Eric Pavick for staff. The property that's currently in the town for annexation is the portion just south of this area. The preliminary plan application is in red. The piece that is currently in the town for annexation is this piece here, and that's not a part of this application.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you. I have no other questions. The applicant would like to come forward. If you could give us your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Alan Cunningham with PCS Group. Last name is Cunningham, and we're at 200 Calumet Street, Denver, 80223. On behalf of the applicant, Hines, it's my pleasure to be here. I think Eric did a great job with his staff report being so comprehensive in his presentation, so I'll be relatively brief. Hopefully I have a few plans in here that help paint a better picture for you, and we do have other team members here to help answer questions that you might have. So with us today is Richard Cross from Hines, as well as Brian Connolly from Otten Johnson, and I believe Brian Moss from Caliber Engineering is online virtually if we have engineering-related questions for him to chime in on as well. So if you've had occasion to be out to the site, you know that construction on the first phase is progressing nicely. On the slide, the picture on the left, while it's a little dark, so I apologize for that, is the entry monumentation off of Crowfoot Valley Road at McCanta. It's progressing nicely, and I believe landscape might even be going in now with the monument coming together. The exhibit on the right just showing some of that construction in phase one, with the homes going up in the background in various stages of construction. Eric had a picture up there that even showed more of them in those different stages of construction. So things are moving along nicely, and the builder sales are going well, and the first residents are closing and moving into McCanta. Additionally, just in terms of that construction, virtually all of the trails are done in association with filing one, other than just clean up tying them to roads. And the foundation has begun for the McCanta Rec Center, so construction's underway on that as well. So in terms of this application and request before you, this is an overlay that shows the line work associated with the preliminary plan, so you can see some of the background lotting and road alignments that are on there. And you can see the construction that's underway in phase one in the light blue and green areas, which was sort of extrapolated from that exhibit that Eric showed you previously, with the orange area rounding out that portion of the preliminary plan. So moving to the north and east. As mentioned, that area within the hatch equates to about 825 acres. There's, on the slide it says 327 lots, that's 326 individual lots, and then one super block lot that's basically that northeastern portion of the property to the northeast of Long Story, and then the 13 tracks for the open space and parks that are distributed throughout this portion of the community. And basically, you know, this has come about as just a refinement of lotting, roadway alignments as grading and things occurred from an engineering standpoint to keep the development progressing with the next phase. So this exhibit takes basically what you saw in that last one, overlays it on the PD so that you can see the lotting that's included within this portion of the preliminary plan within the parcels of the PD. So you can see it's a relatively small area within the overall PD. And as Eric mentioned, the important takeaway is that yes, the lotting that's proposed is wholly contained within the PA parcels and the parameters of the currently approved PD. And this is just a more refined version of that shows you the actual lotting as opposed to just hatching the bubbles that are on the PD. So this shows you where those proposed lots sit within the planned development map bubbles, so you can see that they're falling within it. So in addition to that development, those lots also tied to this preliminary plan and the construction that will go on, there's additional widening of Crowfoot Valley Road and the continued extension of the water line that's out there. The completion of Long Story Ave out to Crowfoot Valley Road, providing a second entrance point with community monumentation out at Crowfoot Valley Road. The construction of another significant detention pond to the northeast of Long Story in Scott Gulch for Canyon South. The construction of an emergency vehicle access that Eric talked about, and that's shown sort of on the lower portion of the plan as that dark, thick dashed line. And then the construction of two more parks within this area of the development as well. We put this slide together. There had been a couple comments about just questioning on the open space at Planning Commission, so I put this one together to somewhat clarify. I apologize, the red line is somewhat hard to see. It defines the boundary between the lotting that was included in the first phase and what's proposed with this preliminary plan. But the area you see hatched in the darker green overlay, that's what represents that open space associated with the tracks that Eric talked about in the 396 acres. And then the yellowish green hatch between Long Story Ave and the McCanta Regional Park is that 327 acre super block that just basically would need to come back before you with another preliminary plan for any future development lotting in that area. So with that, that concludes my presentation. If you hadn't seen it, there's a rendering of the proposed rec center that's under construction. as mentioned, we have members of our team here to try and answer any questions you may have. So thank you for your time this afternoon. It's appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Questions for the applicant?
Mr. Cunningham, this is a beautiful presentation. Thank you for sharing that with us. We certainly appreciate you being in Douglas County. I just wanted to reflect briefly upon Arapahoe County's correspondence from 4/6/2021 associated with the development and their recommendation for a navigation easement and a 7-day noise test for the property. I would just say that as sitting on the Centennial Airport Authority, we often hear about noise complaints and issues associated with overflight noise, particularly from prop planes. I have very little sympathy for people that move into neighborhoods that are close to an airport, because that's part of the due diligence of their acquisition, to be aware of what's around them. But did you want to reflect and share a little bit about the concerns raised by the Airport Authority?
I don't have, excuse me, I don't have too much to share, other than I know when we had looked at it, you know, we deal with this quite often, as you're aware, on properties that are much closer. But if I recall, when I looked into it, I think we're more than 9 miles south of Centennial Airport, with obviously all of Canyons North and the other land in between. While I'm not a pilot and don't understand the heights at which those planes fly at 9 miles away, I think we took their sort of recommendation under advisement, but didn't feel that it was necessarily critical, as given the distance and the separation we are from the airport.
Well, thank you for that. I think that oftentimes with citizens, it helps if they are on notice of particular noise issues. So it's always of value, I believe, when the applicants can work well with a community to ensure that they are on notice and aware of issues associated with their airplane noise. It says that you declined to provide an navigation easement, which was their request. And you also, it sounds like you also declined to do a noise test.
If it's necessary, we could add a note to the plat or something, recognizing that future residents be made aware of the proximity to Centennial Airport.
Well, I would certainly appreciate that as one, but I would defer to our county council in terms of how that might be articulated as a condition for this application today.
Do you mind if I ask a question of planning before I answer that question? Eric or Jeanette, do you know, is this an area that is covered by the county's noise restriction in our zoning resolution? Would this have the standard plat note that we require closer to the airport, or no?
Eric Pavlik for staff. It's my understanding that a navigation easement is only required if it's in the runway safety zone and fan safety zone, which this property is not. It is in the carrier review area, and we would do the standard plat note on this when the final plat comes.
So the reason I asked the question the way I did is not uncommon for Centennial Airport Authority to recommend a easement, and that's also not uncommon that that's regularly declined by land use applicants in Douglas County because it's not a Douglas County requirement. That being said, we do have a notice that goes on final plats in areas that are affected by the airport, and when this issue comes up, it's pretty common that our standard required note would go on the plats, so it would be noticed to potential future homeowners instead of the requested navigation easement. That's generally requested by the county. That's generally acceptable to applicants. We could certainly add that as a condition today, but I think it's probably enough, if it's okay with the board, to let staff know that it would be your intent to request that at the time of final platting to make sure that note comes forward. But that is how future homeowners would normally be notified under Douglas County regulations.
Thank you, council, and thank you, staff. So it sounds like that is already occurring as part of this application, that would be, in fact, a plat note.
That's what I was trying to confirm, and that's my understanding. Eric, can you confirm that?
Staff, that is correct. The applicant already has committed to adding that note on the subsequent final plat application.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Lade?
I have no further questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Teal?
No, ma'am.
So I have just one question, and I've been trying to figure out the letters in the staff report, but the way I read this is that the water will be provided to your development through an IGA between the Metro District and the town of Castle Rock. But the sewer service is being provided by PWWP, and I don't know who PWWP is. So first of all, who's PWWP?
It's the Pinery, I don't know what all, Pinery water, wastewater? Water and wastewater.
I thought that might have been who it was. So why are you getting water from one place and wastewater to a different place?
You wanna- Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brian Connolly for the applicant. Last name is spelled Connolly, and business address is 950 17th Street, Suite 1600 in Denver. And I'm with the law firm of Ott & Johnson. The agreements that were set up for this property were done in connection with I think the board's original approval of the PD, which was in 2000, I think was the district, yeah. So these are the agreements that were set up relating to water and wastewater are 20-something years old. It was when Castle Rock was in the business of doing extraterritorial water service, which it no longer is. It really relates to topography as to why the water is coming from Castle Rock and it's going to the Pinery. It's downhill from the property into the Pinery. And there's a set of agreements as to how Castle Rock will get water returns back once they go to the Pinery, which I looked at probably, I think 10 years ago. So I don't remember all the details of it. But that's the arrangement that was set up for this property 20 years ago.
Okay, thank you. It was just curious to me more than anything else, so thank you for that explanation. I don't have any other questions. If the board has no other questions, I will open it up for citizen comment. Are there any citizens who would like to comment on this item? Seeing no one in the hearing room, come forward. Troy, is there anyone online?
I have no online comments.
Thank you, Troy. I'll then bring it back to the board, although, Mr. Cunningham, I forgot to ask you, there are 6 conditions. Would you come forward and let me know if you agree to all 6 conditions?
Yes, the applicant agrees with the 6 conditions.
Thank you for coming back up. With that, I'll bring it back to the board for further discussion or a motion.
Chair, if it pleases the board, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Canaan South Preliminary Plan Number 1A, first revision with 6 conditions as presented. Project file is SB 2021-005.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that motion carries. Congratulations. And that ends today's hearing. The next land use and public hearing will be held on Tuesday, August 24th at 2:30 in the afternoon. Thank you, everyone.